Imagine this, a bustling upscale restaurant, the clinking of fine china, the hum of polite conversation, and the faint aroma of truffle and aged wine lingering in the air. It's a place where the wealthy come to see and be seen, where every gesture is calculated and every word is measured. But in one shocking moment, all of that is shattered. A waitress, unnoticed and unassuming, steps forward and does the unthinkable. She kisses a millionaire in front of everyone. Not a peck on the cheek, not a polite gesture, but a kiss so raw and unexpected that it stops time. The room falls silent. Forks hover midair. Glasses are set down. All eyes are on him, the millionaire, a man known for his icy composure and unshakable control. But this time, his reaction is anything but controlled. His face changes, his eyes widen, and for the first time in his life, he looks vulnerable. What just happened? Why did she do it? And why did he react that way? This is not just a story about a kiss. This is a story about secrets, about power, about love, and about the moment everything changes. By the end of this video, you'll know the truth about who this waitress really is. The truth about the millionaire's hidden past, and the truth about why this one moment left everyone speechless. But I'm not going to give it all away right now. No. This is a story that needs to be unraveled slowly, carefully, because every detail matters. And trust me, by the time we're done, you'll be questioning everything you thought you knew about love, wealth, and the power of a single moment. Let's start with the millionaire. His name is Alexander Grant, a self-made tycoon who built his empire from nothing. He's the kind of man who commands a room without saying a word, the kind of man who's always in control. But beneath that polished exterior lies a past he's worked tirelessly to bury. A past filled with pain, betrayal, and a secret that could destroy everything he's built. Then there's the waitress, Emma. She's not just a waitress, though. She's a woman with her own story, her own pain, and her own reasons for being in that restaurant that night. But what could possibly connect these two people? What could drive her to kiss him in front of everyone? And why did he react the way he did? I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this is just another story about love and money, about the rich and the poor, about fate and chance. But it's not. This is a story about the choices we make, the secrets we keep, and the moments that define us. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll have the answers you came here for. But here's the thing, those answers might not be what you expect. They might challenge everything you think you know about love, about life, and about the power of a single moment. So, are you ready to dive in? Are you ready to uncover the truth? Because this is not just a story, it's a journey. A journey that will take you from the glittering heights of wealth and power to the hidden corners of the human heart. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss a single second of it. But before we go any further, let me ask you this. What would you do if you were in Emma's shoes? What would you risk for love? For truth? For a moment that could change everything? Think about it. Because by the end of this video, you might just find yourself asking the same questions. Now let's rewind to the beginning. To the moment it all started. To the moment that changed everything. But be warned, once you see what happens next, there's no turning back. So take a deep breath and let's begin. The night it all began was like any other at La Belle Étoile, the kind of restaurant where the rich and powerful dined under crystal chandeliers, their laughter echoing softly against the walls adorned with modern art. Emma had been working there for nearly 2 years, blending into the background like the perfectly polished silverware. She was good at her job, attentive but invisible, the kind of waitress who could refill a glass of wine without the guest even noticing. But that night, something was different. She had been watching Alexander Grant from the moment he walked in, his presence commanding the room as always. He was a regular, though he never seemed to notice her. Why would he? To him, she was just another face in a sea of staff. But to her, he was something else entirely. She had been studying him for months, learning his habits, his preferences, the way he always sat with his back to the wall, as if expecting an attack. She knew more about him than he realized, and that knowledge had been building inside her like a storm, waiting for the right moment to break. Alexander Grant wasn't just any millionaire. He was a man who had clawed his way out of poverty, a self-made billionaire with a reputation for being ruthless in business and untouchable in his personal life. He had no family, no close friends, and no one who truly knew him. The media loved to speculate about his past, but he never gave interviews, never shared his story. All anyone knew was that he had come from nothing and built an empire in tech, finance, and real estate. But there were rumors, whispers of a scandal buried deep in his past, something so dark it had shaped the man he had become. Emma had heard those rumors, but she didn't care about the money or the power. She cared about the man behind the mask, the one she had glimpsed in fleeting moments when he thought no one was watching. The way his jaw tightened when someone mentioned family. The way he always seemed to be searching for something, though no one knew what. The kiss wasn't planned. At least, not in the way you might think. Emma hadn't gone to work that night intending to do something so bold, so reckless. But when she saw him sitting there, alone at his usual table, something inside her snapped. Maybe it was the way he looked at her for the first time, really looked at her, as if seeing her for the first time. Or maybe it was the way he seemed so lonely, despite the wealth and the power. Whatever it was, it pushed her to cross a line she had never dared to cross before. She walked up to his table, her heart pounding in her chest, and before she could second-guess herself, she leaned down and kissed him. It wasn't a long kiss, but it was enough to send shockwaves through the room. And then she pulled away, her face flushed, her hands trembling, and waited for his reaction. What happened next was something no one could have predicted. Alexander didn't yell, didn't call for security, didn't even seem angry. Instead, he just stared at her, his expression unreadable. For a moment, it was as if the entire restaurant had disappeared, and it was just the two of them, locked in a silent conversation that no one else could understand. And then, without a word, he stood up and walked out, leaving behind a half-finished glass of wine and a room full of stunned onlookers. Emma didn't know what to think. Had she just ruined her life? Or had she set something in motion that couldn't be stopped? The next day, the story was everywhere. Millionaire shocked by waitress's bold kiss. The headline screamed. The video captured on a diner's phone went viral within hours. Everyone had an opinion. Some called her brave, others called her crazy. But no one knew the truth. No one knew why she had done it. Not even Emma could fully explain it. All she knew was that something about Alexander Grant had drawn her in from the very beginning, something she couldn't ignore. And now, she was caught in a whirlwind of her own making with no idea how it would end. Meanwhile, Alexander was dealing with his own turmoil. The kiss had shaken him in ways he couldn't understand. He had spent years building walls around himself, keeping everyone at a distance. But in that one moment, Emma had broken through, and he didn't know how to feel about it. Part of him wanted to forget it ever happened, to go back to the life he had carefully constructed. But another part of him couldn't stop thinking about her, about the way she had looked at him, about the vulnerability in her eyes. Who was she? Why had she done it? And why did it feel like she knew something about him that no one else did? As the days passed, the tension between them grew, though they hadn't spoken a word to each other since that night. Emma continued to work at the restaurant, though she could feel the weight of everyone's stares. Alexander, on the other hand, found himself drawn back to La Belle Toile, though he told himself it was just for the food. But deep down, he knew the truth. He was looking for her. And when their paths finally crossed again, it was clear that neither of them could pretend that night hadn't happened. The question was, what would they do about it? And what secrets would come to light as they were pulled deeper into each other's worlds? But this is just the beginning. Because behind the kiss, behind the headlines, there's a story that goes much deeper. A story about two people who are more connected than they realize, and a past that's about to catch up with them in ways they never imagined. What happens next will change everything for them, and for everyone who thinks they know the truth. But to understand it all, you'll have to keep watching. Because the answers are coming, and they're not what you expect. So, stay tuned. The best is yet to come. The days that followed the kiss were a whirlwind of tension and unanswered questions. Emma tried to go about her life as usual, but the weight of what she had done hung over her like a storm cloud. Every shift at La Belle Étoile felt like walking a tightrope, with the other staff whispering behind her back and the diners stealing glances at her, wondering if she was the girl from the viral video. She couldn't blame them. She would have been curious too. But what no one knew was that Emma wasn't just a waitress with a bold streak. She had a past of her own, one she had been running from for years. A past that was intricately tied to Alexander Grant, though he didn't know it yet. She had come to the restaurant not by chance, but with a purpose. A purpose that went far deeper than anyone could imagine. Alexander, meanwhile, was grappling with his own demons. The kiss had stirred something in him, something he had buried long ago. He found himself unable to focus, his mind constantly drifting back to that moment in the restaurant. He tried to convince himself it was just curiosity, that he was only interested in figuring out why she had done it. But deep down, he knew it was more than that. There was something about Emma that felt familiar. Something he couldn't quite place. And it was driving him mad. He started showing up at the restaurant more often, always sitting at the same table, always watching her from the corner of his eye. He told himself it was just to observe her, to figure out her angle. But the truth was, he was drawn to her in a way he couldn't explain. One night, after the restaurant had closed, Emma was wiping down the last of the tables when she felt a presence behind her. She turned around and there he was, Alexander Grant, standing in the dimly lit dining room, his expression unreadable. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them was thick with tension, charged with all the things left unsaid. Finally, Alexander broke the silence. "Why did you do it?" he asked, his voice low and steady. Emma hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. She had rehearsed this moment in her mind 1,000 times, but now that it was here, she wasn't sure she could go through with it. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you," she said softly, her eyes meeting his. Alexander took a step closer, his gaze intense. "Try me. What happened next would change everything." Emma took a deep breath and began to speak, her voice trembling as she revealed a secret she had kept buried for years. She told him about her childhood, about the family she had lost, and about the man who had destroyed it all. A man whose name Alexander knew all too well because it was his own father. The revelation hit Alexander like a punch to the gut. He stumbled back, his mind racing as he tried to process what she was saying. His father, the man he had spent his entire life trying to outrun, was the reason Emma had come into his life. But it wasn't just about revenge. Emma had been searching for something answers. Closure, maybe even redemption. And she had thought Alexander might be the key to finding it. The room seemed to spin as Alexander struggled to make sense of it all. His father had been dead for years, but his legacy of pain and betrayal lived on. And now it had brought Emma into his life in the most unexpected way. He didn't know whether to be angry, hurt, or relieved. All he knew was that nothing would ever be the same again. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Emma looked at him, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and fear. "I want the truth," she said. "The truth about what happened. The truth about your father. And the truth about you." But the truth was more complicated than either of them could have imagined. As they began to unravel the tangled web of their shared past, they discovered that there were others who had been pulling the strings all along. Powerful people who didn't want the truth to come out. People who would do whatever it took to keep their secrets buried. And as Alexander and Emma dug deeper, they realized they were in more danger than they had ever imagined. The stakes were higher than ever, and the clock was ticking. But they couldn't stop now, not when they were so close to uncovering the truth. As the story unfolds, the lines between ally and enemy blur, and trust becomes a luxury neither of them can afford. Every step they take brings them closer to the heart of the mystery, but it also brings them closer to danger. And as the pieces of the puzzle begin to fall into place, one thing becomes clear: this is not just a story about a kiss. It's a story about betrayal, about redemption, and about the power of the truth to change everything. But the question remains, will they survive long enough to see it through? Or will the secrets of the past destroy them before they can find the answers they're looking for? Stay tuned because the next chapter is about to take you on a ride you won't soon forget. The stakes have never been higher and the twists are just getting started. The tension between Alexander and Emma reached a boiling point as they delved deeper into the labyrinth of secrets surrounding Alexander's father. Each revelation was more shocking than the last, painting a picture of a man who had not only been ruthless in business, but had also orchestrated a web of deceit that had destroyed countless lives. Emma's family was just one of many casualties, and as they uncovered more, it became clear that Alexander's father had been involved in illegal dealings that spanned decades. The deeper they dug, the more dangerous it became. Strange things started happening, mysterious phone calls, cars following them, and even an attempted break-in at Emma's apartment. It was clear that someone didn't want them to find the truth. But who? And how far would they go to stop them? One night, as they pored over old documents in Alexander's penthouse, they stumbled upon a name that sent chills down their spines: Victor Kane. A powerful businessman with ties to organized crime, Victor had been Alexander's father's closest ally, and, as it turned out, his partner in crime. The documents revealed that Victor had been the one to clean up his father's messes, ensuring that no one ever connected the dots. But there was something else, something even more shocking. Buried in the files was evidence that Victor had been blackmailing Alexander's father for years, using his secrets to control him. And now, with Alexander's father gone, Victor had turned his attention to Alexander. The pieces of the puzzle were finally falling into place, but the picture they revealed was more terrifying than either of them could have imagined. Realizing they were in over their heads, Alexander and Emma decided to confront Victor directly. It was a risky move, but they had no other choice. They arranged a meeting under the guise of a business deal, but their true intention was to get Victor to confess. What they didn't know was that Victor had been expecting them. He had been watching them from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. When they arrived at his mansion, they were greeted not by Victor, but by a group of armed men. It was a trap. Victor had no intention of letting them leave alive. As they were led into a dimly lit room, Victor appeared, his cold smile sending a shiver down their spines. "You should have left well enough alone," he said, his voice dripping with menace. "But since you're here, let's have a little chat." What followed was a tense standoff, with Victor taunting them with the truth. He revealed that Alexander's father had been planning to expose him, but Victor had gotten to him first. "Your father was a fool," Victor sneered. "He thought he could outsmart me. But in the end, he was just another pawn in my game." Alexander's blood boiled as he listened, but he knew he had to keep his cool. He and Emma had come prepared, and they had one last card to play. As Victor gloated, Alexander subtly activated a recording device he had hidden in his jacket. Every word Victor said was being captured, and it would be enough to bring him down. But they still had to get out alive. Just as Victor was about to give the order to have them silenced, the sound of sirens filled the air. The police, tipped off by an anonymous source, had arrived. In the chaos that followed, Alexander and Emma managed to escape, leaving Victor and his men to face the consequences. The evidence they had gathered, combined with Victor's confession, was enough to put him away for life. But the victory was bittersweet. They had uncovered the truth, but it had come at a cost. The scars of the past would never fully heal, and the journey had taken a toll on both of them. In the weeks that followed, Alexander and Emma found themselves drawn closer together. The shared experience had forged a bond between them, one that went beyond the secrets and the lies. They had started out as strangers brought together by fate, but they had become something more: partners, allies, and perhaps even something deeper. As they stood on the balcony of Alexander's penthouse one evening, looking out over the city, Emma broke the silence. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice soft but filled with hope. Alexander turned to her, a small smile playing on his lips. "Now," he said, "we start over. Together." But just when it seemed like their story had reached its happy ending, a final twist emerged. As they were going through the last of the documents, they found a letter addressed to Alexander, written by his father. In it, his father confessed to everything: the lies, the betrayals, the pain he had caused. But he also revealed something that left them both stunned. Emma wasn't just a victim of his father's actions. She was his daughter, Alexander's half-sister. The revelation hit them like a thunderbolt, leaving them speechless. All this time, they had been searching for the truth, but they had never imagined it would lead them here. The kiss that had started it all, the connection they had felt, it all made sense now. But where did they go from here? The story of Alexander and Emma is a reminder that the truth is rarely simple, and that the past has a way of shaping our lives in ways we can't always predict. It's a story about love, about loss, and about the power of redemption. But most of all, it's a story about the choices we make and the people we become because of them. As the screen fades to black, one question lingers in the air. What would you do if you discovered the truth could change everything? Because sometimes the most shocking twists are the ones we never see coming. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Until next time, stay curious.